Bitcoin plunging by almost 30% to $31,000 earlier today, raising all of its gains since Elon Musk first announced Tesla.
$100K Bitcoin incoming. I love being right. Oh, do I love being right? I love being right about this. I love being right about Bitcoin. I love being right about things in general. But this in particular, ladies and gentlemen, feels great. If you're a Bitcoiner, you've been through it. You've been feeling it. You've been seeing the ups and downs. You've seen Bitcoin go up to $69,420 and drop all the way down to, oh God, what did we get to? 15,000. Then you've seen it get to 73,000 in the spring, even before the halving, and then you've seen it drop back down to the 40s. And oh, ladies and gentlemen, here we are. You guys know, I don't talk about price a lot. That's not really my thing. But it's at $98,000 right now. $98,000 is the price of Bitcoin. And doesn't it just feel great to feel right? To not feel right, to know that you're right. It's just, I can't, before I get any further into this, because I'm going to get carried away, get yourself a BitBox O2 hardware wallet. Easiest, simplest hardware wallet to use. Go to bitbox.swish/Bitcoin Made Simple. Use promo code Bitcoin Made Simple to get 5% off. Put your Bitcoin there. You could put one Bitcoin there, and there would be $98,000, soon to be $100,000 on that hardware wallet. But the video I played at the beginning, if you're not watching the YouTube, if you're listening to the podcast, you heard the song. Maybe you watch on Spotify, you'll be able to see the video. I will play the full thing at the end. So that's my what to do while Bitcoin is crashing video. If you remember it, if you followed me, I mashed up the Tom Cruise at the end of Tropic Thunder dancing with the song. What's the name of the song? But it's the one, Let's Make Lots of Money. You heard it at the beginning. I mashed those together and then just made it look like while he was dancing, the price of Bitcoin's crashing. And what was he doing? And was he freaking out? No, he was selling his chair, selling his house, selling his car, just doing everything he could to stack more sats. And it feels pretty good. It feels pretty good to be, standing here at this moment, knowing that it would always get here eventually. I also posted another video. I caught it. It was some guy dancing from another meme, but I put it at the top. I said, this is me walking into Thanksgiving prepared to tell everybody that I was right about Bitcoin. And people, they did it. They laughed. Not maliciously, you know what I mean? But even you can tell, when people know that you're a Bitcoiner and they know oh, he's really into Bitcoin. And they kind of have that oh, that sounds interesting. And either they're really confused or they're like, that sounds like the stupidest thing I've ever heard. How many times in the last, you guys know my story. So I didn't become a full-fledged Bitcoin maxi until COVID was what did it, 2020. That was what pushed me over the edge. I was like, whoa, no, this is the only thing. And that's the moment that I realized, and it's not me being a genius figuring it out. It's me listening to other podcasters and learning and reading and studying to realize and coming to that conclusion where you're like, oh, it is the answer to the monetary problems. It is the answer to the current crappy financial situation that we're in. It is the answer to so many problems in the world. As far as financially goes, it's the only thing that has any truth to it. Everything else is made up of thin air. I've said this before. I've said it again. But if you're a new listener, th- I thought that if anyone ever invaded Fort Knox in the United States and found out we didn't have enough gold to back our currency, that there would be a war and it would be World War III. That's what I thought. And then I found out through studying, I'm like, oh, we've been off the gold standard since 1971. So if you're a Bitcoiner, we take that knowledge for granted. But you walk around and talk to the average normie, they are not going to know that the gold standard has been off. We've been off of it since 1971. So once that realization set in, and then I started to understand that Bitcoin is immutable. Bitcoin cannot be destroyed. It could be, but it would take an incredible event to take it out, like an EMP that wipes out all electronics on Earth type event. And doesn't mean that there aren't battles and all that kind of stuff, but it is, if it stays censorship resistant, stays decentralized, it is the only thing that really is decentralized. Everything else is a shard coin. Everything else is fake as the fiat dollar, and Bitcoin is it. And so, yeah, it's like, since then, family members, they'll be like, do you think Bitcoin is the next thing? And I'm like, yeah, I do. Now, I will admit I was definitely not right about my timeline. Early on, when I became like, when you become a new Bitcoin maxi, you come in like guns ablazing, like just, super bullish. And you're like, obviously we're going to get to $100,000 by like, we thought it was going to hit $100,000 by the conference that happened at the end of May 2021. And it did not. It did not. So, don't take this for granted. But over and over again, as the price would go up and then the price would go down, people go, oh, you still into that Bitcoin thing? Oh, you still paying attention to Bitcoin? Like, paying attention to it, like, it is the thing. It's it. It's everything. It's the thing you should be focused on, especially when you put it on your Bitbox O2 hardware wallet. Like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? I'm still focused on it. Like, I've said in I'm still doing some stuff in my business life, but I've like turned it around, and the main focus of my business going forward is Bitcoin. And to me, Bitcoin is the brightest future in the business world. It's the thing that I will keep pursuing and keep going towards. But yeah, I love being right. I love it. I love being right about things. And my wife knows that, and it drives her nuts, because when I am right about something, let's just say maybe I gloat a little bit. But that's the fun thing about Bitcoin, is that it's something that you're right about, and you're right about it now, and you will be right about it for the rest of your life. So if you're like me and you love to be correct, especially when you are correct, there's a lot of pleasure in just sitting back, and because it's not good to hear, like, to tell people think you're crazy, or like, like to see like, oh, people think you're a little nuts, or oh, people think, oh, he's that crazy Bitcoin guy. You know, it's not fun, but it is like, I can't explain it, and I didn't, I didn't truly understand, because I got in at a really, really good time. And then, rode, the rocket ship for a while. Like, I was into Bitcoin, but when I went like all in, it was like one of the most opportune times to possibly get all in. And I will tell you, don't sit here and think that I am rich and loaded, because, you end up realizing you would go over your skis, put too much into Bitcoin, and while it did work out, it needed to be used for other things. And so I'm in that mode of like forever trying to get back to that original stack, the peak stack that I had. And that's how I feel like a lot of true Bitcoiners are. A lot of there are a lot of people on the influencers will be like, never sold a sat, never sold any Bitcoin. If you never sold any Bitcoin, you are so short Bitcoin, because that means you're either not into it enough or you haven't done that where you've gone out over your skis, which I don't recommend. I'm just saying you haven't learned that lesson, or you're not, selling Bitcoin means that you are, another part of it could be a business that is building on Bitcoin, and it does require you to sell Bitcoin in order to pay for things and fiat expenses. And yeah, it's just, there's a lot of, I think if you ask a lot of old school Bitcoiners who've been around, they know, oh, this is what it, like I'm still chasing that original stack. I mean, think about somebody that would have bought Bitcoin at like $100, like you could have probably had like 1,000 Bitcoin, which would be close to $10 million or something like that right now. There's probably tons and tons of people that had 1,000 Bitcoin at one point that now maybe have 20, and it's just like they're working back to get to that stack. And maybe someday they will, but it's all about building. It's all about building things that actually work. Don't just sit there and wait for Bitcoin to reward you. Find ways to increase cash flows, increase Bitcoin flows, and increase your stack. But anyways, yeah, it's just, through this whole stretch, when people are like, oh, you could tell they're like, oh yeah, how's Bitcoin doing? Like, yeah, yep. And it's hard then because whenever it crashed down to $15,000, it's not hard for you to understand that you're right, but it is hard for other people to know you're right because you don't look very right at the moment. So yeah, I don't know. It's hard to just not take a victory lap and want to rub it in everyone's face that you were right about Bitcoin this whole time. And I mean, it went up. Oh God, what it was like a week ago. It was in like the 70s, and now it's at $98,000. Ridiculous. And I'm not a technical analyst, and I'm not giving financial advice or anything like that. But when Bitcoin blows through 100,000, look out. Like that's when the euphoria is going to be. Everybody's going to say, "What now?" Like Bitcoin's 100,000. Like, oh my God, that's going to catch people's attention. And then you have to think about all the governments that are adding it to their balance sheet and governments that are front running the U.S. right now because the U.S. has said that they will have a strategic Bitcoin reserve. So what do you think other countries are doing? It's going to go up and to the right, and it has to. I mean, I'll be like, I don't do a lot of the technical analysis, but I know just from seeing other people say it and hearing from other people that exchanges don't have enough Bitcoin to sell. Like, what happens when there isn't enough Bitcoin to purchase? The price is going to go through the freaking roof. And like I posted on Twitter the other day, I said, what happens when you can't buy Bitcoin because there's none on an exchange? What happens then? Two things. The price of Bitcoin goes through the roof, but the only way you can get it is by mining it. So if you've spent your time wisely building infrastructure to mine Bitcoin, you're going to be the only one that can get it. And guess what? Then the exchanges. I mean, I've seen, you guys have probably seen them too. Like Hodl Magoo said, there are OTC, over the counter Bitcoin desks calling people like him who've been around for, however many years, like since the beginning, with stacks of Bitcoin and saying, we need liquidity. And they're willing to pay 10% premium on the Bitcoin. A 10% premium because they need the supply, because they don't have it. The exchanges will not exist if there's no Bitcoin to sell, or it'll be like a very, very rare transaction. And won't that be just a beautiful thing? Just a beautiful, beautiful moment where you can sit back like me with your feet up and say, I told you so. So with that being said, get yourself a Bitbox O2 hardware wallet, and I will talk to you later.
Bitcoin plunging by almost 30% to $31,000 earlier today, erasing all of its gains since Elon Musk first announced Tesla.
My car is parked outside, I'm afraid it doesn't work. I'm looking for a partner, someone who gets things fixed. Ask yourself this question, do you want to be rich? I've got the brains, you've got the looks. Let's make lots of money. You've got the brawn, I've got the brains. Let's make lots of money. You can tell I'm educated, I studied at the Sorbonne. Doctored in mathematics, I could